started doing. So just take us through that a bit more.
Exactly. Like, I think in their generation, their parents were those people who really believed that agriculture is the way to go. Like, it's been a backbone of Uganda for a long time. I think my dad grew up seeing coffee bring good incomes to the people that were there by then. So as a youth, he caught up by that, and whichever plantation he bought, he could put coffee. So
hello and welcome to House of Talent Television. My name is Emmanuel Ateng and this is the Coffee Break Show. Wherever you're watching from in any part of the world, remember you can always catch us on our social media handles at House of Talent Television. That's on our YouTube, on our Facebook, on our Twitter. You don't have to be seated in the house. You can get that right on your phone. Watch us on the go. This is the Coffee Break Show that happens every week, and I know that there are people who have really been waiting for the show. So if you're ready for it, get your cup of coffee, get your book and your pen. I know there are people who like to take notes, and let's get started with the coffee break. This week, I have a man who has been a barista for 1 year. He has got that experience. His name is Paul Sally. Paul, you're very welcome to the show. It's good to have you here. Thank you for honoring our request to be here. We have had a lot of baristas come up on the show, a lot of roasters come up on the show, you know, a lot of farmers. And I was talking to you earlier and you said that you had an experience with your father who was a coffee farmer, you know.
And he still does.
And he still does coffee growing up as a young man. So growing up, how did that, you know, shape you into the coffee business? Because I think you saw your dad, and normally for guys, we always want to follow what our dads do, right? So how did that shape you into, you know, becoming the man you are in the coffee business today?
Actually, generally speaking, my dad didn't even do any like physical training that this is coffee, this is how they do coffee, this is how they process coffee, this is how they do. No. But to me, as I grew up, seeing him doing the farming, the coffee farming, the way I moved and transitioned from one step to another, going into institutions, coming to Kampala because our main home is in Masaka. I didn't have any ideas about coffee. I stopped at the coffee farming. You understand? But then, actually it was after COVID, you know, the first lockdown.
2020?
Exactly, 2020. So after that lockdown, I was so bored at home. I'm like, which place should I go to now? All of a sudden, I'm like, let me just go to Kingdom Kampala. So as I was moving at Kingdom Kampala, I was moving randomly. So I met there some guy called Vincent. I remember the name. He had this gas station in the corner of Kingdom Kampala, like a coffee station. So I landed there. I saw him selling honey. He had coffee. What? So I'm like, okay, you have coffee, you have cappuccino, because that's the only thing I had in my head, cappuccino. So he served me the cappuccino. Fortunately, that time I was the only one in his station. There were no other clients. And he was a little man, like a youth, around 28. And he came by my side, just from nowhere. He started talking about coffee. Told me how he loves coffee, me with coffee. And then he told me, at that very time, when he was jazzing me, he had issues with his girlfriend. And then he told me he doesn't care as long as he does his coffee. So that's how much he loved the what?
The coffee. And
he told me so many things. I'm like, how did you learn coffee? He told me I was in Kabale, blah, 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 blah. He had like the same kind of life. They were dealing in coffee farming, and his grandfather loved coffee. What they used to export coffee in those days, his grandfather. So he told me he loved coffee. From not just being a barista, but coffee as a plant, coffee as a drink, coffee as in the coffee world. He entered that world too much. I left the place. So now I went back to Masaka. I found my sister starting up a simple restaurant. You know, when you reach Masaka, I don't know whether it's called Nyendo, there's that roundabout. This route goes to Mbarara, then this you proceed with Masaka, Rakai. Yeah. So there was like a mini station there. She wanted to put a restaurant. Yeah. So when I went there, I'm like, I have a friend of mine in Kampala who told me about coffee, and that does what?
Coffee.
I didn't know the roasting. All I knew is how to plant, to harvest and dry. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. Not even hulling. I didn't know any processes. Yeah. I just stopped at drying because we used to sell that unhulled coffee. Yeah. So my sister told me, people of Masaka local, they cannot know coffee, blah 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 blah. Yeah. All they want is their tea. Put their majani, put their sugar, and boil water. They will take that. Yeah. So I came back to Kampala. Okay, the way the other guy talked to me about coffee really caught my attention. Yeah. I went back to him as a customer again, but this time around in my mind, I'm like, I have to know something more. Yeah. So he told me, then I had heard previously that coffee does so many things. Yeah. And I was pursuing a course at MOBS, accounting. Yeah. I told him, people tell me coffee makes you sometimes take some hours without sleep. So he told me, there is the strongest coffee, which is called the espresso. Yeah. I'm like, okay, bring the espresso. Because today, I had to read. Yeah. He brewed something very Kataini. And I didn't take it honestly. Because when I tasted, it was too bitter. Then I'm like, this is too much. Yeah. Then he told me so many things. Espresso is this, what. I'm like, one time, I'll get time and maybe you will teach me more. Personally, not professionally, but you keep on telling me. Yeah. And unfortunately, we lost contact. You understand? Yeah. So now time passes. Around November of last year, no, October of last year, 2020. Yeah. I was in Chirika because I stay along Namgongo Road. So I have a restaurant where I always eat my meals, Masha Foods. Yeah. I mean, there's some guy. He tells me about so many things because I used to see that they serve their coffee. Those guys are very passionate about what they do. Yeah. Organized. They are not so congested. You order for a beverage in 2-3 minutes, it's done. Yeah. So this guy, I asked him, I'm like, do you know something about coffee? Because I still had Vincent's concept in my head, lingering all the time. And this guy, the way he talked to me really seemed, he basically decided to be a barista because of joblessness. There was no passion. You understand? Exactly. Because he has to make ends meet. Yeah. He decided to go and do it, learn being a barista. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. Do you know somebody who knows much about coffee? Yeah. He gave me like 3 guys. But when I called the first one, the way they talked really seemed arrogant. You know those people who, you know, we Ugandans sometimes, if you have an idea or a knowledge, we are so greedy and mean to each other. Finally, I got Isaac. Yeah. You understand? Isaac of Brew Plus. I talked to Isaac. He briefed me a lot about coffee. He told me, I do this, I train like this, I do blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, one time, let me go visit Isaac. Yeah. When I went to see Isaac in person, he made me love the coffee. Because for him, he's somebody who actually first told me about the farming. And remember, I grew up seeing the what? Witnessing the farming. Yeah. And in our farming, my dad is not that person who studied so much. Yeah. No. He does the local farming. Yeah. He's going to buy land, use the normal fertilizers, does the normal drying. He uses one method. Actually, he has never heard of any other processing method. He knows the dry method. Yeah. Get coffee from the cherries from the garden, dry them, take to the hullers, period. Yeah. That's where he stops. That's an interesting story. Exactly. And I want you to tell us more about that. We're going to take a break right now, and you'll just take us more into, you know, how your dad started growing coffee without actually knowing, without getting any education from coffee. This is the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. My name is Emmanuel. Today we are hosting Paul Sari, and we will be right back after this break. That's when I started learning that, this is how coffee is. But
why is it that we produce coffee here and just sell it when we don't take it here, we don't consume it here? So one time when I had just started my training here, I went back to Iganga, and then I went to a hotel, a very established hotel. I will not mention its name. Then I wanted to see if I have people that know about coffee in hotels, because I knew maybe probably big hotels serve coffee. So to my dismay is that I introduced myself as a barista, and everybody was like, "What's a barista?" So I said, a barista is a specialist that makes coffee, a person who makes coffee for people to, coffee like, cappuccino, different kinds of, coffees, and people were like very green. I said, this is a big hotel. I expected to find here a coffee machine, and nobody knows about it. So it's, I think, incumbent of us to really transform this entire community, the entire country, to coffee, to learn about coffee, and also to give them the advantages of coffee, teach them about coffee, and then later on they maybe consume it, rather than just selling it.